Shalom. The Purim story. Some random thoughts to consider. Well, it comes from the Tanakh. It comes from the book of Esther. It's usually a very silly time, frivolous time, a time of partying, a time where it's traditional to drink a lot of alcohol. You're supposed to drink as much alcohol as it takes that one cannot tell the difference between Haman, the evil prime minister, and Esther, the heroine. But the story, the actual story from the book of Esther, is a much deeper one, a much more complex one. Usually one has an arc for Esther of being someone who's a clear-cut heroine, doing what she can to save the Jewish people. It's a little bit more complex than that. Consider these things. The context of the story. It comes right on the heels of the destruction of Jerusalem and the first exile of our people, the Hebrew people. That's what puts Esther in Persia. It's a very sad time. It's a time that stems the books and the writings of Jeremiah and of Lamentations, two of the most troublesome, sad, sorrowful works of literature, sacred text ever created. And what about the actual story of Esther? Well, things to remember are that Esther wasn't born Esther. Esther was born Hadassah. Her parents perished as Jerusalem burnt to the ground. A very sad time. She was orphaned. We know very little specifically, but we could imagine that she was old enough to really realize what had happened to her folks, her family, everything that she had known. And going through her mind may have been the same thing that would have gone through anyone's mind at that time. Where was God in all this? Why were my parents murdered, killed? Why am I alone? A trauma, a very deep trauma. Well, Hadassah, in a way, is lucky. She has a redeeming relative named Mordechai. And Mordechai and Hadassah leave on the road of the exiled, and they end up in Shushan. Now, as Hadassah grows up, she must have had post-traumatic syndrome, stress syndrome. And things to consider, what would that do to a person? Well, one thing immediately, Hadassah, when she gets a chance, changes her name to Esther, which is Persian, to assimilate. And she appears to be very much an ambitious young woman. She manipulates herself into the palace. She's being very optimistic. Who wouldn't? She does not call upon God to save her, to help her. That God didn't help her parents, didn't help Jerusalem. So she becomes upwardly mobile. With the help of Mordecai, who suggests to her that she does not reveal that she is a Hebrew, she becomes queen. Quite a star on the horizon, rising up, 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 out of ambition. There's nothing wrong with that. She must have been a very scarred young girl. The stuff with her saving the Hebrew people, the people of Persia, well, Haman doesn't show up on the scene until well after Esther is queen. And it takes several attempts for Mordecai to convince her that just because she is in the palace, it does not mean that she will be saved. She will not be spared the fate of her kinsfolk. And it's only then that she agrees to help. She asks the people, the Hebrew community of Persia, to fast for her. She's not interested in attempting a bavakasha prayer, a petition prayer of Hashem, of God. She still carries that baggage. She just does not trust a God that would not save her parents in Jerusalem. Things turn out okay. In the long run, the Hebrews are able to be armed, and they slaughter those who would have slaughtered them. But it's not a clean story. If nothing else, most of the story can be centered upon the protocol of royalty and the protocol of how things are done. The king demands Queen Vashti to dance. Queen Vashti says no, all done publicly. There's a protocol to answer for that. Vashti must be exiled. There's a way to do things. And there is a theme throughout the Tanakh, throughout the Torah, that challenges the old protocol. The younger son can inherit. Women can get land rights. A Hebrew can become queen. And a king's edict to wipe out an entire people can be outflanked. There's a new sheriff in town, folks. And the Tanakh is putting that out there. It's a wonderful story, but it's a much more complex story. Please look at it and please read it with that eye, that we Jews are not into hero creation. Our role models are complete people with flaws. And Hadassah/Esther speaks to us especially in this post-Shoah time where we still have Holocaust survivors that may or may not be wondering where was God in Auschwitz. And what that type of trauma of perhaps, at least temporarily, having your God murdered, or worse, impotent, can do to a person. And please do not say, well, strategically, one life and this piece of time is just a blink of an eye, because that does not comfort the sufferers, those who have lost. So that's the context of Purim. Now the celebration is more like a whistling as you go through the graveyard. Traditionally speaking, what we do is we dress up at this time of the year as those who would do us harm and make fun of them, cut them down to size, at least for this one time during the year. When we dress up as Hitler, as Haman, as Stalin, as those who would kill us, and we mock them, we cut them down a little bit to size. Because any other day of the year, it might have been a dangerous thing to be a Hebrew, as it still might be. So when you're going out, think of a few things. Think about how in the story, it's a flip side of Tu B'Shavat. On Tu B'Shavat, we plant healthy seeds, wonderful seeds, good seeds in the ground, and we nurture them and let them grow, and they grow into flowery plants with fruit that is sweet from the heavens. Haman plants a seed that too often gets planted about us Hebrews, about us Jews, and about many minority groups. The seed that they are not like us. They do not pay attention to our laws, and they will side with those who attack us, so we should destroy them first. That's the seed that Haman plants in the king, and he tries to have it grow. It's the evil seed of bigotry and xenophobia. Also think about that unlike Halloween or other types of holidays like that, we give to other people as opposed to take. We prepare baskets to give and to share. So remember the stories, and please honor Hadassah, the young child, and Esther, the grown woman, by seeing her as the full, complex human being that she is. Shalom.